Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gravity Shed. Today I've got a video for you on servicing of Rockshox Pikes. These particular Rockshox Pikes are 2015 650B Rockshox Pikes from a Trek/9. Now, you've probably seen a video before without a service of Rockshox Pike, but got a little bit of a different one here. This is a set of Rockshox Pikes that hasn't been serviced since I've owned the bike. Now, I bought it brand new in 2016 and it's obviously now 2021. I've done a lot of riding on these forks. I have done a lot of instructing with these forks. I've been riding national downhill tracks. They've taken a beating and we're going to... Now, the inspiration for this particular video comes from a race I was doing at Revolution Bike Park in 2015. One of the lads in our team confessed he'd never serviced his Rockshox boxes, so one of the other lads decided to get his stand out and service them for him there and then. Just a lower leg lube, bit of a clean out and some new oil. When we removed the lower legs from Jamie's Rockshox boxes, they were just disgusting inside. It was like liquid mud basically. A pig could have bathed in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to strip these down for you and we're going to have a little look inside, because I had a look on the internet and there's so many videos where people are in clean, sanitised, sterile environments fixing the forks. They take them apart and everything's brand new. Well, we don't live in that world in real life, do we? So we're going to see what these look like inside. What I'm going to be using here is a set of wiper seals and new foams from TF Tuned. Those 16 quid. Also TF Tuned lower leg lube kit. Absolute great value. You get the grease, you get the oil, you get a nice little syringe and some Gucci TF Tuned stickers that are going to end up on the lower of my forks after this. Also, I'm going to be using a seal pick, but you don't really need a seal pick. You could just use a soft blunt instrument, maybe a flathead screwdriver, small one at the best. 2.5 Allen key for removing the rebound adjuster, 5mm Allen key for the lower legs. Gloves, as always, PPE, Kosh, all that, you know, you got to remain safe. Shock pump, I'm not going to go through too much, but, you know, make sure you make a little note of your shock settings before you start taking everything apart. Torque wrench. We're all guilty of just using so many white knuckles and saying, yeah, mate, just give it 3 white knuckles. But you know what? The forks are very difficult to replace, so you're very expensive to replace. You don't want to be ruining them by stripping thread, so I'd rather go to the correct torque. A bit of isopropyl alcohol that I've just slammed in a spray bottle. 4 quid from Amazon. It's quite difficult to get hold of on the high street, but, you know, IPF from Amazon is ideal. And then some microfiber cloths just for cleaning, you know, 3 quid from B&M. Done and dusted. Remove the air cap. Make a note of your pressure and then release correctly. Yeah. Now obviously I've released the air, but just to make sure it's all out, little 2.5mm Allen key just to press the Schrader valve there. Not even a hiss. Next step is to remove the rebound adjuster at the bottom of the leg there using a 2.5mm Allen key. You can just trial and error it afterwards when you put it back together, but I always like to make a mental note of my click, so I'm going to turn it to the rabbit mode. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm 4 clicks from as fast, so that's how I'm going to put it back on. That's off. Next, we're going to take the 5mm Allen key and we're going to start to undo the bolts at the lower leg. Now, you might get some oil lashing out here, so make sure you have something underneath. I've just got a big thick rag, but you might want a drip pan or something like that. We're only going to undo these 3 or 4 turns. Do not remove them fully at this point. Okay, so that's 1 undone, few turns. So I've not got much resistance there. What we're going to do next is take a mallet to our beloved forks. Little tap with our trusty Timmy mallet on the bottom of the bolts that you've just loosened off. Now you've only loosened them off 3 turns maybe, so the bolts should still be in there. We're going to apply a little bit of a shock upwards, gentle tap. At this point we should start to get some oil leaking out. I've just heard a little hiss of air there. Don't go crazy with this, okay? A few little taps and then we're going to remove the lower legs, or at least we are going to try and remove the lower legs. To do that, completely remove the bolts. Now, it should go without saying, but remember which bolt came out of which leg. Things are very easy to get mixed up. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I don't entirely know what to expect here. I might end up with mud and gloop and half of Revolution Bike Park just slopping out onto my mat. Then again, I might not. I might get some pristine red oil peeing out. Highly doubt it. Starting to get some oil. Right then, folks. This is the oil that's coming out of my forks. It is brown. It's not very gritty. I thought it was going to be a lot more gritty, so that's actually a good sign. Hopefully when we get it all apart, it won't look too bad in there. I'll press stop a second. So let's see if these come off. Now, big tip, don't be smashing the top of your crown with a hammer or a mallet. You're likely to crack it. It's a hard, brittle material, you know, it's aluminium at the end of the day. It's not very good at receiving shocks. So we're just going to slide the lowers off. Being cautious about all the oil lashing out onto the beautiful floor of your shed. You know, some people take a lot of pride in their sheds. And there we have the lower assembly removed from the upper assembly. We've got oil lashing out everywhere. And you know what? Yeah, it's pretty gopping. It is pretty gopping. So the next step is going to be the cleaning phase. Isopropyl alcohol right down inside. Let's get on this. Stop. On the upper side of the lower legs, we've got the wiper seal. These look in pretty good condition, to be honest. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to change them or just grease them. But on the inside there, you might not be able to see with the light, there is a foam seal. Now what I'm going to use is a nice rounded seal pick, which is specifically designed for taking out O-rings without causing any damage to the surrounding material in the surrounding metal. I'm just going to gently remove those foam rings. Now from here, where I'm looking now, they look pretty gopping. Yeah, they're pretty muddy. They've been in there for 5 years. They're pretty gopsville. It says on the internet that you can just clean them with IPA, but you know what? We're going to fit some new ones. We're just going to replace them with some nice new seals. Same on the other side. They look in very similar condition. Covered in mud. Or maybe not mud, but old oil. And that one's actually sticking in there somewhat. Yeah, should have done this sooner really. But generally the fog's looking good. Time for a good clean with the IPA. Going to give the forks a really good spray everywhere. This stuff doesn't leave any residue behind. It will evaporate. But it'll also take all contaminants, greases, old oils and stuff like that away with it. Now, as I clean this, I'm really taking note that, do you know what? These lowers are light. There's nothing there. Like, it's the first time I've had these forks apart and I'm really impressed by the low weight of them. Now, these forks have taken a real beating, but you know what? They work perfect still. I've been really impressed with them, which is why I've not really serviced them. Now, my Reasshox, I've serviced that a couple of times because I've had various issues with it. Squishing noises, I've struggled with the air leaking out and stuff. So, you know, I have had a couple of issues with that, although it does ride well when it's working. These, they've just been brilliant, been fantastic, fantastic set of forks. Same detail with the uppers, give them a good clean, make sure everything's clean. Now, this whole stage here isn't just about having your bike looking shiny. It's also very much about looking for that damage that you might not otherwise notice. It's only when you really strip your bike apart and you really take care of it that you start to notice things that are wrong. Not even things as bad as cracks, but scoring and damage to your stanchions. Corrosion anywhere, you know, we've all got a little bit of paint chip where the cables have rubbed off, but you're never really going to notice that your bike's degrading unless you do strip it down and give it a really good clean. You know, at the very least, clean it after every ride. Now what I tend to do at this point is I've got a long extension bar and I've got my microfiber cloth doubled over the end of it. I'm going to give this a really good douse on the end of it, you know, on the end of the rag. Just get plenty of IPA on there, make sure there's plenty of cleaning solution. And I'm then going to gently, be really careful about the seals, just going to work that in there. And I'm just going to gently start to clean out the bottom of those legs. Also cleaned and inspected the uppers. Everything looks good, everything looks clean. I'm happy to start reassembling. So yeah, I've got an example of nice new foam ring versus the old foam ring. You know, what these do is these hold a bit of the lubricating oil in there and they just give a good, well, they reduce friction by keeping the suspension nice and smooth and lubricated. So although I probably could give this a good bougie and clean it up, do you know what? It's fairly haggard, isn't it? So it's just going to go with the new ones. Fitting the new foamies, the new foam rings. You can see a nice new white one that I've just seated inside the recess there in the lowers. Same with this one. I'm just going to seat it into the recess. I'm going to work it round with my finger, ensure it's all in there. Now, pointless using any metal tools for this. You could cause damage to your nice new foam wipers. And to be honest with you, they're fairly easy and straightforward just to put in. And you know what? In a weird way, strangely satisfying as well, because they just slide in like a glove. Yeah. Next job, those brand new foam lubricating rings are going to need some lubrication on them. Now, what you could do if you have plenty of oil is essentially bath them before you put them in the oil. For these forks, it is a 30 weight, I think, 30W. TF tuned, basically do a Rockshox servicing kit, which is, I can trust that's the right stuff, as in TF, Tim Flukes, they know exactly what they're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my syringe and I'm going to inject some of the oil onto those white wiper seals, those foamies. Just get them nice and wet without wasting too much. Then we've got nice wet contact when the forks slide on. So when people talk about leaving your bike upside down to get your forks lubricated, what it's going to do is it's going to keep these foam rings nice and wet with the lubrication. I think I've probably put about 5ml in the syringe. I'll end up using 2.5ml or so on each side. With one side done. Always remember to use gloves for this, because various hydraulic fluids can be damaging to the skin. Refer to the alcohol data sheet. Everything throughout this procedure I've gathered from reading the owner's manual, which I found online. I just typed into Google Rockshox Pike 2015 owner's manual. It brought up the 2014 plus owner's manual. Now in that manual it recommends you to use the SRAM suspension butter. That's, you know, they're going to try and sell their own gear on that. I'm using this TF tuned kick slick. You get actually quite a good quite good amount of it. I can imagine you could probably do 5 or 6, maybe even more suspension services with this little bottle of grease. So it's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get blob on my finger, and then I'm going to use it and the inside of these wiper seals, as you call the dust seals, you know, the seals with a little springer on the top. Now I did get a new set of seals with this kit, but you know what, these ones seal in fantastic condition. It just seems like a waste of time changing them. You know, I don't like doing things for the sake of it. But I have got a new set there now in case I need them. So that's just in there. That's going to help lubricate as those lowers slide back on to the uppers. Rog. Both sides. Yep, okay, so I've got the seal over that initial lip of the uppers, of the stanchions. And now I'm just going to slide that up, smooth as butter. Now, I've reached the end of its stop. That inner rod is now engaged with the bottom of my lowers. There's a little recess in there, but what I'm going to do is going to pull that back out ever so slightly, maybe an inch or two. Ready to get the oil in there, the lubricating lower leg oil. Now the manufacturer's instructions online says 15 millilitres of this oil to be applied in the non-drive side of the leg and 5 to be applied in the drive side of the leg. What we're going to do there, we're just going to slide that in through the bolt hole at the bottom of the leg. Bow. You see, I've got the forks horizontal, so it's not just going to leak straight back out when I do this. So that's the non-drive side, and then into the drive side, 5ml, baby. Awesome. Now it's just a simple case of reassembling, making sure everything's torqued up correctly to the manufacturer's specifications. And then we're good to go. So in accordance with the manufacturer's specification, the manufacturer's guidance, we're going to go up to 7.3 Newton meters or 65 pounds-force inches on these lower legs. Okay, let's see. If you haven't got a torque wrench, do you know what? Just invest in one, man. You can get one from like Screwfix or something like that for 20 quid, and it's well worth it, especially when you're dealing with expensive mountain bike components. There we go, 1 click. Don't know why I like to go for 2 clicks, just a little habit of mine. Nice, nice. Rebounded just a knob back on. It only needs to go to 1.1 Newton meters or like 10 pounds-force inches. So do you know what? It's not a structural item. I'd rather not risk threading a little grub screw. So all I do is I just give it a quick little nip off. That's all it needs. Just done. Happy days. and it just did back me 4 clicks. Awesome. Forks put back together, pump back up to my weight specification. All cleaned, all good. They should be running as smooth as butter now. I'm quite new to this YouTube thing. Okay, this is one of the first videos I've actually filmed. If there's anything you like about it, let me know. Also, do you know what? If you think of something I could do different, by all means, let me know. Once again, I'm filming this on an iPad at the moment, which isn't the best. I might get a little GoPro, something like that, to film on something with a slightly wider angle lens. I'm going to be doing quite a few videos soon on mountain leading, mountaineering in general, rock climbing, mountain biking, mainly downhill, enduro and cross country. Just let me know what you think. You know, if you do decide that you quite like my little videos that I make, by all means, like and subscribe. I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but yeah. Thank you very much for watching. If you're going to take one thing away from this video though, just remember, don't be afraid to try any kind of like maintenance activities. Someone does it, so just give it a go. Always make sure you read the manual, and yeah, they're not really very complicated. In fact, your forks, neither is your shock. Have a good one, and see you out there shredding. Let's get amongst it. Alright again, so I'm back here just with a little bit of extra content to finish this video. As you see, it's the next day, wearing different clothes. I've just rebuilt my bike on the old trusty homemade stand, which I might go through at some point in a future video. But the forks genuinely do feel different. Honestly, they are so smooth. They feel a lot slicker and a hell of a lot smoother than they did before I serviced them, as you might imagine, having gone 5 years out of service. Definitely recommend this to anyone. Do you know what? Don't be worried about what you're going to find under there. I think I've proved that. Although you should service your forks every 50 hours, as Rockshox recommend. As long as you keep a clean bike, as long as you lubricate those seals and keep everything running smoothly, then you don't need to do it that often, really. Thanks very much.